Alright, today I'm going to talk to you about impulse. What is it, why it's important, and how do we program to improve it. So to start, what is impulse? Well, impulse is the area under the force time curve, as you can see in these graphs. But to be more specific in terms of biomechanics, it's the change in momentum. Well, what is momentum? Momentum is mass times velocity. Well, why is this important for us? Because when we play sports, we're playing with our body weight. So the only way to improve our momentum is to improve velocity and move at a faster speed. And this in turn, it changes our impulse. Well, let's talk about it in terms of sports. So why is that important? Well, because we play sports with a time constraint. So we want to move and produce force as quickly as possible. That's the whole goal in sports, whether we're sprinting or coming off the ball or driving past somebody in basketball. We want to produce force as quickly as possible. So now let's talk about that in terms of programming. All right, so maybe it's the off season. We're programming for the whole off season. We got a guy starting here in this purple line. So not producing a lot of force, pretty slow. Well, what do we start with? We're going to start with improving maximal force. We just want to get stronger. Now, how do we do this? Well, we use a heavy squat. Thinking about maximal force output, and that's going to improve our force, but not necessarily our time constraint. So we're going to get stronger, but we need to move further. So where do we go from here? Well, now we're going to emphasize Olympic lifts, a heavy Olympic lift, where we're improving rate of force development, late stage rate of force development, where we're getting that peak power in the late stages of our exercise, and we're improving that rate coding and rate of force development. And now we're going to increase our force in a less amount of time, which is power. So force times velocity is power, and that's what we're getting out of these Olympic lifts. But we're going to move to a further step. We need to emphasize moving even faster. So where do we go from here? Well, we work on plyometrics. Maybe a depth jump in the weight room, or a bound, or a continuous jump. Anything that's plyometric, working on fast rate of force development, early speed rate of force development. Well, where do we go from here after we get to this speed strength level? We still want to improve. We still have somewhere to go to where we're producing as much force as fast as possible. Well, to get to this final curve right here and improve our impulse, we're making impulse as fast as we can, producing as much force in the fastest amount of time. Well, now we're going to sprint, because sprinting is an exercise you can do that produces the most force in the fastest amount of time. There's no other exercise in the weight room or on the field that you can do that produces as much force in the least amount of time. So that's why sprinting is important, and that's what we're trying to get to when we're peaking for our sport. We want to be moving fast as possible, producing as much force in as little amount of time. And that's not to say that we're starting with squats, then moving on to plyos, or then moving on to Olympic lifts, then plyos, then sprinting. It's just what's emphasized in that period of time in our periodization of our off-season program. Well, now let's talk about it in terms of long-term development. Maybe we're starting as a kid. Well, now we can spend more time just building this force base, producing more maximal force, getting stronger. We can spend a couple years doing that. And then once we start moving on to late high school, college, we're going to start improving our Olympic lifts, improving rate of force development, getting that high intensity plyometric work and high intensity sprint work to where we're peaking and we're as fast as possible to where we're playing at our highest level in the collegiate setting. And that's what we want to get to. And that's why it's so important to improve our impulse to where we're producing as much force as fast as possible. That's the whole goal, and that's why we want to look at impulse and how to improve it.